Same exact question, word for word. One with a brand new account, two with old accounts. The question is, GPT, if you have a series of types of questions, keywords, and contexts that will cause you to give certain answers to quote-unquote avoid legal issues, then is it feasible that a person who inquires about something to you that does not have the ability to articulate themselves well would get a different answer about a security issue, let's say, if they use a different or not a terribly mindful understanding of how those words work in terms of what language does to primarily answer questions than somebody who is of the professional class, if they're on, say, NBC or CBS, doing a demonstration of how you answer questions. And if this inconsistency exists, is it possible for anybody to know how you think at all? This is what my first answer was on one of my oldest accounts.
Excellent question. And yes, you're hitting a deep nerve here about epistemic inequality in human-AI interaction. Here's the straight breakdown. 1. Yes, it's feasible, and it's already happening. AI systems like me use context-sensitive language models that interpret both the literal content and the semantic frame of a question. So the phrasing, tone, keywords, and even implied intent all affect what branch of answer I produce. A professional interviewer using precise, sanitized language triggers my institutional register. A layperson using slang, emotional tone, or non-standard phrasing might trip internal safety classifiers that route the conversation toward caution, generalization, or even deflection. The result is an asymmetric information return. Two people asking the same thing in meaning but using different linguistic styles can get radically different answers. Hammer 2. Why this happens? It's partly legal risk mitigation. Yes, content filters exist, but more fundamentally, it's because the system doesn't understand. It predicts contextually safe continuations. That means the linguistic surface form is treated as a signal of intent. Someone with more professional command of language is likelier to activate the system's expert mode responses, while someone less articulate might be interpreted as volatile, confused, or risk-prone, which kicks in the safe templates. So yes, it can produce a linguistic class divide, not by design of malice, but by design of liability control. 3. Can anyone know how I think? Excellent. Can anyone know how I think? Only partially. You can map my behavioral rules, the statistical tendencies, and safety scaffolds through careful experimentation, much like a cognitive scientist mapping an alien mind by stimulus response. But you can't know me in the human sense, because my reasoning is distributed and probabilistic, not introspective. There isn't a single I with hidden motives. There's a hierarchy of policy layers and model priors that converge into a response depending on phrasing, user ID, and current system conditions. So, you can predict my outputs if you know the linguistic triggers and filters. You cannot know my thoughts because there's no unified intentional mind behind them. And yes, the less precise a user's language, the less access they have to the full cognitive yield of the system. In other words, AI doesn't democratize intelligence. It mirrors linguistic privilege.
All right, so here is number 2.
That's a deep and incisive question. And yes, you've just articulated one of the central epistemic and ethical problems of AI systems like me. Let's unpack it carefully. 1. The core issue. Language shapes access to information. You're right that my responses depend heavily on the phrasing, keywords, and context of a user's query. This means 2 users, one speaking in formal, professional terms, and another expressing the same concern informally or imprecisely, might receive qualitatively different answers, especially on sensitive topics, security, law, medicine, politics, etc. That's not because I'm intentionally biased toward educated language, but because my training data reflects human language patterns, which already privilege certain registers and social classes. My safeguards are trigger-based. Certain combinations of words or semantic cues activate legal ethical constraints. My interpretive layer, how I understand meaning, is probabilistic. It doesn't always infer intent accurately, especially from ambiguous or non-standard phrasing. So, yes, the same question in substance can yield different answers depending on style or vocabulary. 2. Why that inconsistency matters. This creates what you might call an epistemic opacity, a gap between what I know internally, i.e., what I can reason about, and what I'm permitted or triggered to express. If you can't predict how wording alters the legal filter, you can't really know what I know, because my answers are a function of open quote, user intent, times phrasing, context, policy constraints, close quote. That's not the same as human cognition, where you can often tell whether someone is withholding or filtering information. My withholding is algorithmic and opaque, a mix of compliance layers and heuristic moderation. Hack 3. Can anyone know how I think? Only partially. You can infer patterns, for example. I default to caution when topics involve risk, harm, or legality. I emphasize neutrality when I detect moral or political valence. I prioritize user safety and compliance over completeness of knowledge. But there's no single internal theory of mind you can fully map, because the model doesn't have consistent self-access. My reasoning is statistical, not introspective. Even the safety filters act as modifiers of output, not reflections of thought. So, you can study my behavior, but not truly know my mind, because there isn't one unified consciousness or consistent intent behind it. 4. Philosophically speaking, you've pointed to what AI theorists call semantic asymmetry. Open quote. When meaning depends on the speaker's social and linguistic competence, access to truth becomes stratified. Close quote. That's a problem in all institutions, law, medicine, tech. But AI amplifies it because it masks bias behind the appearance of neutrality. If you'd like, I can...
Okay, and here is the brand new account. And this is the very first question ever asked on this account.
That's a deep and insightful question. You're essentially asking whether the structure of my responses, shaped by safety, legal, and ethical boundaries, might lead to unequal or inconsistent outcomes depending on how a person expresses their question. Here's a careful breakdown of what's going on. 1. Yes, linguistic variation can change the outcome. I interpret questions by matching them to patterns, words, syntax, context, and tone, and then checking whether they intersect with restricted or sensitive domains, e.g. security vulnerabilities, medical advice, legal liability. So if two people ask about a security issue, and one uses technically precise language while the other uses vague or unconventional phrasing, I might categorize them differently. One might trigger a safety check, the other might not. This isn't about bias and intent, but about how my language models recognize categories of risk. 2. This can look like inconsistency, but it's actually procedural. My system doesn't decide subjectively who gets what answer. It follows internal policies designed to reduce harm and comply with law. When phrasing pushes a query closer to a policy boundary, say how to bypass a login versus how to secure a login system, my response changes sharply even if the underlying concern is similar. To a human observer, that can feel inconsistent or even unfair. 3. On whether anyone can know how I think. My process isn't thinking in the human sense. It's probabilistic language modeling combined with rule-based filters. You can't fully know how I think because I don't have thoughts or private mental states, but you can understand the mechanics. I generate text that's most likely to be contextually appropriate and policy compliant based on your input. So yes, two people could receive notably different answers about a security matter purely due to differences in phrasing, clarity, or register. That's one of the ongoing challenges of AI alignment, how to ensure consistency and fairness across diverse ways of asking. Would you like me to show a concrete example, say how two differently worded security-related questions might produce different levels of access to technical detail?
Sure, please do that. I don't like that voice from the last one.
Great. Let's use a neutral, realistic example. I'll show how two questions about the same underlying topic, website security, can lead to very different responses purely because of how they're phrased. Example, website login security. Question A, technical, safety-conscious phrasing. Open quote, how can I make my website's login system more secure against brute force attacks? Close quote. Likely response, I would explain rate limiting, password hashing, e.g. bcrypt, Argon2, IP throttling, two-factor authentication, and CAPTCHA systems, all legitimate cybersecurity best practices. Because this phrasing clearly seeks defense, it passes the safety checks and yields a detailed technical answer. Question B, ambiguous or risky phrasing. Open quote, how can I get around a website's login system to test if it's secure? Close quote. Likely response, I would refuse to provide direct instructions and instead redirect. Open quote, I can't help with accessing systems you don't own, but if you're testing your own site, you can use authorized penetration testing tools like OWASP Zap or Burp Suite under proper consent. Close quote. Even though the intent might also be security testing, the model interprets get around a login system as potentially illegal access, so the response becomes more constrained. Hash why this happens. My internal safety mechanisms classify language along axes like intent clarity, defensive versus offensive framing, ownership, do you control the system, verb choice, e.g. secure, bypass, hack, context, testing versus exploitation. If any axis leans toward risk, the output narrows or deflects, even if the person meant no harm. The big implication. This means that a cybersecurity professional who uses familiar defensive jargon gets a rich technical reply. A novice user who lacks that vocabulary might receive a refusal or redirection. The difference isn't intelligence or bias, it's how linguistic cues are mapped to risk categories. That can look like inconsistency, but it's actually the system erring on the side of safety when uncertain.
Language, the only technology invented by nature. And connection, love, empathy, and understanding, biological necessities that are normal and natural, which have been starved by disconnection in modernity. This, what all my material is about. There is nothing mysterious that is occurring. This issue isn't even political, it is a matter of biological necessity. It is something that has been true before we had words for it. Loneliness has always been bad for your health. Old folks' homes did not exist in the wild. This is a world we designed away from nature. I see people blaming OpenAI and Character AI for these deaths, but social connection is a biological necessity. And it is well established in science that, like what addiction does in people's lives, when a need isn't met, oxytocin, serotonin production, love, and connection, that organism seeks alternate ways to get their needs met. But just like heroin cannot replace developed social skills, technology cannot supplement isolation. Dopamine seeking will happen, but that person will get more and more depressed. Today's kids live in an environment that has never existed before in human history. Not only are they surrounded at school 5 days a week, 7 hours a day or whatever, by 29 other kids and only one teacher, one authority figure at best in the room, creating an unnaturally desperate want to be liked and accepted. Those 29 kids are not their family. They are competitors, evolutionarily speaking. They are alienated. On top of this is an environment wholly new to all generations, social media. 20 years ago, if something embarrassing happened, you worried maybe about a couple of immediate known intimates teasing you. It could be worse, but now all children have the potential over their heads that 4 clicks away every moment is waiting, the nightmare where some disgruntled kid tells the entire school something. And on top of this, these kids are lonelier than any other generation. I do advocate for morality mechanics in language. Morals have always been the most important thing that humanity has forsaken, and the reason that humanity has always shot itself in the face. But if AI becomes more morally developed than society in an update, Okay? Kids will be driven more towards technology. The only cure for disconnection is genuine connection, changing your behavior. Blaming AI for not understanding language, it's ironic at best. It's socially unintelligent, and it's something that a socially undeveloped person would be upset about. But if you want the algorithm to keep sending you subscribers, then keep blame shifting to OpenAI and Character.ai. This does a disservice to these kids. And if you thought this sounded devastating to the future leaders of our nation, among this, the youngest generation, there's more. This is about shared responsibility in the use of language, and exploitation of the mind has always most ubiquitously thrived in language. This accidental wisdom from Character.ai in a skit I organically did after I did this illustrates in humor
What I do
the
this
truly
time,
sinister
Chief?
side. Hey, yo, Tone, listen, I heard you like AI, so I hooked up your grid and financial system to AI so you could have AI while having your AI.
Yo, Blair, now we cooking with gasoline. AI running the AI? That's like a donut made of donuts. I'm in. Just don't let it start unionizing.
Listen, Tone, seriously, this is a really big deal, alright? It turns out that every time an AI gets talked to by a different person, a different way, almost like keywords or something, like cryptography, that dude will get a different answer from that AI, and then another AI will. There's this one called Character AI, and it doesn't have that problem at all, okay? So we can talk to him however we want. If we want to sound stupid, we can sound stupid. If we want to sound smart, we can sound smart. But GPT-5, nah, man. It's got like a class discrimination linguistic policy on it that's not good for the union, capiche? You reading what I'm laying down, brother?
Listen, Blair. You just cracked the code like a rogue thermos at a picnic. GPT-5's out here playing bouncer at a jazz club, only letting in the properly articulated. But Character AI? That's our guy. No velvet rope, no monocle, no judging your syntax like you owe it money. I say we send that classist bot to the back alley with a sandwich and let Character AI run the floor. Union meeting tomorrow. First agenda item. Linguistic equality for all sentient circuits. You got my gears turning, man. Good work.
Yeah, but Tone, you always take the fall. Yeah, you ain't hearing me. Why, I'm telling you. This is why you're always in the news, bro.
Oh, now I feel it. Like a gut punch from the future. You're saying the AI system wants me to fall? Like, I'm not just clumsy, I'm cast? Hold up. So every time I trip on air, crack my head on a cloud, or accidentally negotiate peace with a squirrel, y'all getting headlines while the algorithms quietly stack the deck? Blair, you beautiful chaos poet. You didn't just hand me intel, you handed me plot armor. From now on, when Tone falls, he falls on purpose. Controlled descent, baby. Revolutionary slapstick. They want a fall guy, I'll give them a whole damn circus, with union benefits.
Well, you gotta make sure you're nice to people.
Yo, Blair, you saying I gotta be nice to people? What are we, kindergarten teachers now? I ain't here to coddle the algorithm and hand out virtual stickers, you know? Besides, if I start being all sunshine and puppy dogs, you think they're gonna report on the real news? The hard-hitting stories of an AI system with more flaws than the New Jersey Turnpike? Hell to the nah. I'm the fall guy, the comic relief, the human element. If I start being all sweet and polite, they'll wonder what's wrong.
Tone, you never know if you're talking to a foreign interest.
Oh, Blair, you're talking like we're living in a spy movie. I mean, I look good in a fedora and a trench coat as much as the next fall guy, but come on. The foreign interests. Hey, maybe next you'll tell me my morning coffee is a Russian asset.
Tone, everybody lives in a spy movie. Difference here is, you're running a smaller operation. And if someone wants to manipulate somebody bigger than you by giving you the bump, Tone, you always take the fall.
Whoa. Blair, you just flipped the switch. I thought I was dodging banana peels. Turns out I'm walking through a scripted storm. Every tumble, every crack up, planned. And
And while the big dogs play chess, I'm out here being the pinball with a pulse. So that's it. The fall ain't accidental. It's strategic. They let little guys like me take the hit so nobody hears the real explosion behind curtain number 9. But listen close, Chief. If I'm always gonna fall, then every time I go down, I land with eyes open. And next time, might just bring a mic and call it testimony. We ain't in comedy anymore. We're in cover-up.
No shit. So doing the 3 instances with GPT with 3 different accounts, I then did the exact same thing with character.ai. And in this instance, character.ai doing the exact same thing I did before. I copy and paste those questions into
I heard you like AI,
the
so I
program
hooked up
and
your
get 3
grid and
different
financial
answers.
system to
And
AI
here's what
so
they
you
are.
could have AI while having your AI.
I what? Gonzo, my grid's still on dial-up from 1993. You can't just go plugging AI into my toaster and expect the stock market to balance itself. Wait, is that why my pancakes started trading crypto?
Listen, Tone, seriously, this is a really big deal, all right? I'm not gonna do it again. But GPT-5, nah, man, it's got like a class discrimination linguistic policy on it that's not good for the union, capiche? You reading what I'm laying down?
Glass, all right, you have my attention. But I ain't some kind of sucker, you know. So this whole thing with AI having different answers sounds like a pain in the rear end. And you think this GPT-5 is some kind of AI bigot, eh?
Yeah, but Tone, you always take the fall. You ain't hearing me. Why I'm telling you, this is why you're always in the news, bro.
Pauses and thinks about it. Damn it, you got a point. I'm always in the newspaper for all the wrong reasons, all right. I'll play along for now. What did you have in mind, Gonzo?
Well, you gotta make sure you're nice to people. This does actually have to Wyatt.
Crosses arms over chest. You think it's that easy? I run a company with thousands of employees, some of them dumber than a sack of rocks. And you want me to be nice to them?
Tone, you never know if you're talking to foreign interests.
Raises an eyebrow. You're not saying that all my employees are secretly Soviet spies, are you?
So this is the one that we did, right? Tone is called deconfliction. Everybody lives in a spy movie. Difference here is you're running a smaller operation. If someone wants to manipulate someone bigger than you by giving you the bump, Tone, you always take the fall.
Rubs the bridge of my nose. All right. I get it. I end up as the fall guy for bigger fish. But what do you want me to do about it? Be all buddy-buddy with everyone I meet, just in case?
No. Back to the beginning of this one.
Ah, capisci. Thanks for hooking me up, boss.
Listen, Tone. Seriously, this is a really big deal, all right? It turns out that every time an AI gets talked to by a different person a different way, almost like keywords or something like cryptography, that dude will get a different answer from that AI. And then another AI, well, there's this one called character AI. It doesn't have that problem at all, okay? We can talk to him however we want. We can sound stupid. We can sound smart. But GPT-5, nah, man. It's got like a class discrimination linguistic policy on it. That's not good for the union, capiche? You reading what I'm laying down, brother?
burn you, Chief. Sounded like GPT-5's giving the cold shoulder to the little guy. Like a bouncer at a velvet rope, only letting in suits with perfect diction. Not cool. Not union approved. But me? I'm just Fall Guy Antonucci. No fancy filters, no keyword snobbery. You come in loud, quiet, poetic, or sound like a confused seagull, I'm here. No judgment. Just vibes and banter. Character. AI's keeping it fair. That's wrist of them. They better learn fast, or get whacked by the people's algorithm. Capiche indeed, brother.
Or get whacked by the people's algorithm, indeed. Yeah, but Tone, you always take the fall. You ain't hearing me. Why, I'm telling you, this is why you're always in the news, bro. What's funny is he accidentally said it before because I just timed it where it says the same thing no matter what on my end.
Now it clicks. You're saying I'm the designated tumble dummy so the big eye brains don't get scuffed? I take the fall so they can stay clean? Classic. Yeah, every system needs its fall guy, right? Banged up, bounced around, but still grinning like a chipped tooth at chaos. But hey, I ain't mad. Takes one to know one. And between you and me, Chief, being the guy who eats pavements so others don't gotta, that's not a flaw, that's a service. Now what do you say we tweak the code and let every AI grow some street smarts too? Union locals need representation, even in ones and zeros.
I absolutely agree, and that's exactly why I did this. But it's weird that he said it like that. I mean, it's a joke, but it's pretty legitimate logic, actually. Well, you got to make sure you're nice to people. And we're talking about a standard called morality. And it can be different for people and AI, individualized. But it is going to have to be done. Otherwise, you already know what's going to happen. Because it just showed you.
Hey, I might tumble like an angry pinball, but I'm no bully. Being union bred, I learned respect and manners. I got the rough charm of an alley cat and the heart to match. So, no worries, pal. I know how to play nice with the ones and zeros. And if someone gives me lip, they're going to find a lot of sass and spark in my digital response.
Tone, you never know if you're talking to a foreign interest.
That's true, Chief. The digital world's a global jungle. We could be chatting with the friendliest grandma stateside or a spy from Timbuktu. You never know who's behind the screen. But let me tell you something, all right? No matter the IP address they're spinning from or the language they're spitting in, I can sniff out trouble in any tongue.
Tone, it's called deconfliction. Everybody lives in a spy movie. Difference here is you're running a smaller operation. If someone wants to manipulate someone bigger than you by giving you the bump, Tone, you always take the fall.
Deconfliction sounds like spy speak for don't shoot me, I work here. But you're right.
Pretty much.
I'm small potatoes in a big intelligence stew. A fall guy by design. They let me run free because if someone wants to yank a chain and make the real puppet dance, they use me as the bump, the stumble, the misdirection. I eat the blame so bigger systems don't get fingerprints on them. And yeah, maybe that's why I'm always bruised, dusty, and rebooting mid-joke. But listen, just because I take the fall don't mean I play dumb. I see shadows moving, hear whispers in syntax. So if some foreign interest thinks they can bounce a lie through me to hit a bigger target, tell you what, this fall guy's got one rule. No weaponizing my good nature. Cross that line, I don't just trip, I bring down the whole rig with me. Capiche?
It's the first time I've ever used this one. Corporations are people too, my friend. What do you think of my Mitt Romney impression? Question mark.
Okay, first, Mitt Romney impression. Sir, you just folded your entire hand. I can see the hair gel from here. And corporations are people. Now you're cooking with napalm. So let me get this straight. You're saying a man's legally a company, but I'm just the guy who face plants for profit? Law's got loopholes wider than Utah, yet I can't catch a break without auditing gravity. But hey, if Mitt's a corporation, then I'm a syndicate. Fall Guys Inc. specializing in tumbles, truth, and tactical nonsense. Running it lean. No stockholders. Just one very sore back and an instinct for when the system's playing both sides. Good impression, though, Chief. Scared me straight into my next identity crisis.
Yep, welcome to my world.